some ways, at some point in your life, everybody can be a lost rider. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House Listening Post of the Texas Sportsman Association. This is Herman Bruin, and this weekend's edition is also brought to us by the Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club folks who don't have a country club. All right, we're going to step back a couple of steps this weekend. Sometimes I get way too serious. We get into way too deep in issues, and the thing about issues is you got to find out who thinks these issues are essential, or am I just, is this all in my head? So anyway, I tell you what, we're down here in Rockport this weekend. We're with a good friend of ours, Captain J. Nichols, fishing guide, hunting guide, fishing guide. Everybody down here in Rockport knows him. He's a great guy. And Jay, how you doing this morning?
Mighty fine.
All right. Okay, I'll tell you what, let's start off this morning, just talk a little bit about how the weather's been, how this fishing has been down here.
Well, we've had some nice cold mornings. We've had some mornings that turned out pretty warm. It's fluctuating up and down. Our tides have fallen out, so our fish are pretty much in the shallow flats right now. There's some good fish in deeper water too, but I'm running an airboat, so most of the time I'm running in the back lakes and trying to find my fish shallow. Redfish and black drum mainly. Trout are here. They're better whenever you're wade fishing. You're going to fish all day to catch a great big trout, probably a trout of a lifetime, Catch a few smaller ones too if you really want to, but for the most part we target redfish and black drum.
All right, okay. Is this, I grew up fishing coming down here with Raymond Klaus, and all we ever did was use live shrimp, and is that still pretty much?
There's a lot of people that use live shrimp. I try and stay away from it. Most of the time I'll use live perch, or very rarely do I even use croaker, but I like perch a lot. They seem to do the trick for me. I'll use cut bait, cut mullet, live mullet. I'll use dead shrimp. Right now all the bait stands are closing up pretty much. There's a few that are still open. They're carrying some live shrimp. But for the most part, I'm throwing dead shrimp right now, and we're sight casting to most of them. We're running in the lakes and seeing them and then shutting down and waiting for them to come back by and throwing out. And the perch are getting harder to get around here, so they're dropping off into the deeper water. And that also helps us out because you can take a shrimp and throw it out there and it'll stay out there for a pretty good while before something pecks it off.
Okay. All right. One of the deals, and I don't know, it may be too late in the year, I don't know. We were always looking for birds.
Our birds, in Galveston, it seems like that's the thing to do. And it seems moreover since the hurricane especially, that our birds, if you chase them, you're going to wind up finding a bunch of skipjack and a bunch of gaff top underneath them. Now the pelicans, the big white pelicans, they're usually on top of bait fish or something where the redfish are at. So yes, you can chase your pelicans around. But as far as like the shorebirds and the seagulls and such that are diving out there, that's a lot of times that's going to be skipjack and gaff top.
Well, they're still working up shrimp, aren't they?
They're working up small shrimp. They're working up little glass minnows, any kind of small fish that they're pushing around. But for some reason, we haven't done real well lately off of the birds with trout or anything.
Okay. All right. Well, that's just something you got to know. Okay, so it's been cooler for a little bit. Has that, what's been the main effect?
The cooler temperatures basically drives the smaller bait fish that eat your bait all the time down into deeper waters. So, like I said, it makes it to where we can throw a shrimp out there and leave it and not have to worry about it getting pecked off like it is in the summertime. But redfish are still up in the shallow flats. It works out a little better, it seems like, whenever you wait for the temperature to come up just a little bit, get that sunlight up. I always kind of equate it to, like, if I'm sitting at the house looking out the window and it's a cloudy, dreary day, I might not want to go outside and do much, you know. But that sunlight starts shining, it gets me to rolling, and I want to go outside and do something. And these fish seem to have the same attitude, you know. You start off early and in the dark, and a lot of times you're not going to catch a bunch of them until that sunlight pops out. That sunlight pops out, it just seems to change the whole world.
Okay. All right. Well, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, you know, everybody always, just the way people behave, you know, think you got to be there at the crack of dawn and that everything's going to have that magic hour right then. But if it's cooler on the fish side, I can see that. They kind of need it to warm up just a little bit.
Our water temperatures are running somewhere between 57 degrees and 63 degrees on average right now. So the cooler it gets, the slower those fish seem to move. I never say lethargic. I don't agree with that word when it comes to fish. I just feel like that when the temperature warms up a little bit, at least that sunlight shining down on them, you know, they seem to move a little bit better for me.
All right. Okay. Well, no, that's you got to know what you're looking for, and that's what everybody wants. They want the guide to know what he's looking for. So, all right. Okay. Now, all right. So much for the fishing. We'll just, you like live bait, you like perch, you like to use a little perch. Okay, so now let's get one of the things we talked about a little bit earlier, and we'll kind of get back to where I was headed off to begin with, is essential issues, you know, because I can sit off over there in Shaw's Bend at my house, and I do so much stuff worrying about water and worrying about water at the Gulf Coast because it's all in the same master plan. But what issues are on the horizon? What are the issues that are in your face right now down here?
Down here, it's all looking good, really, water-wise for us. You know, now the guys in Baffin Bay, they just got into a big struggle with a desal plant that they were trying to put in there, and luckily they got that knocked out. I don't know whatever happened to the desal plant they were talking about putting here in kind of right at the edge of Port Aransas.
I can answer all these questions.
Can you? All right. Because I'll tell you my thoughts on it. I've had 7 different saltwater aquariums, and that salt builds up on the edge of it, and you can watch the salinity level climb inside that aquarium. And they were talking about pulling water out, knocking the salt out of it, and spitting it right back into the bay system right there. And that, to me, it just seems like it's going to raise the salinity level. They told us that it's going to disperse and go away and not have any effect on anything. But it's real hard after having aquariums,
right?
You know, to understand how does salt just dissipate and not raise the level of it, you know?
All right. Okay, let me answer. Okay, so you do some work down around Baffin Bay, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. The concern around Baffin Bay is that was the Kingsville plant where they wanted to desalinate a brackish aquifer. Okay, now what they didn't say was that, what they said was they wanted to put the water in the creek, let it come back down to Baffin Bay. What they did not say was that this water would be treated before that would happen. All right. Now, I naturally assumed immediately that the water coming back into Baffin Bay would be too salty. And I think that's what we were just talking about here a second ago. Okay. Now, doing these interviews and talking to people about this, talking to CCA, talking to South Texas Water Authority, talking to the Nueces River Authority. No, they were concerned that the water coming from this would be too fresh, that Baffin Bay salinity is higher than the water that would be coming back in. And they were concerned about the water being too fresh. Have you heard this?
I have not heard that. I do know that I've ran a couple of duck hunts down there, and the areas that we duck hunt are fresh water coming into Baffin Bay, and one of them had a desal plant that they were quiet about, and they were putting water in there, and that water is very salty flavored now instead of fresh water, and all of our grass on the bottom of the creek has died.
Okay. All right. Well, see, that's what we're looking for, because I have always been led to believe that if this water is treated coming out of a plant and then the discharge is treated, that it is possible to make that treated water match the Laguna Madre, Baffin Bay, wherever it's going, that they can match it. That through water treatment processes, it's able to match it. But that's what everyone is concerned about, is that that doesn't happen.
Well, and if they are matching it, they're putting it through a freshwater outlet. And if they're trying to get a salinity level to match the bay itself, that fresh water is coming out of there naturally through the creeks and the little estuaries and such. But I guarantee you, I stepped in the water and took a handful of it and put it in my mouth to see, and it was salty.
Okay. All right. Well, no, that's you gotta, we'll talk to the scientists, we'll talk to the engineers. When do you find out what's really going on? You find out when you go talk to the guides and the fishermen and the landowners and the people that are there. That's when you find out what's really going on. All right, I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break and thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. We'll be right back.